Thanks, everybody. Well, welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. Our next guests are the stars and writer-director of the new film, The Miseducation of Cameron Post. It's a sensitive, subtle film about a group of teenagers stuck at a gay conversion therapy center in 1993 and the effects that center has on their mental health and safety. Surprise, it's negative effects. Let's take a look.
All that's left is your signature, and we're good to go. Now you're officially a disciple of God's promise. Welcome.
Fuck. Welcome to God's promise.
And you are at an age where you are especially vulnerable to evil.
Change will come through God, but within me.
We're gonna spend our time together investigating what led you here.
In the past, I would resort to self-pleasure, but then when I learned that that was a sin also, I stopped.
Cameron, your struggle is with the sin of same-sex attraction. You're facing the consequences of your actions, and it's ugly.
Why does she give such a shit?
I guess it's like having your own Disney villain, only this one won't let you jerk off.
You don't really seem like the kind of person that'd be here. We didn't have a choice. Did you?
You'd better be ready for the dark days.
I mean, couldn't we just walk off?
And go where? What's worse, karaoke night or living on the streets?
Where does my heart beat now?
Tough call.
You'd rather hit the road not to look back.
Are you at that place? Tell us about that girl you knew from home.
The first step is for you to stop thinking of yourself as a homosexual.
I don't think of myself as a homosexual. I don't really think of myself as anything. Fuck this place. I'm tired of feeling disgusted with myself. You have no idea what you're doing, do you?
Stop it!
Everybody put your hands together from the Miseducation of Cameron Post. Forrest Goodluck, Gallagher Jr., Chloë Grace Moretz, and writer-director Desiree Akhavan. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here, and congratulations on a beautiful, very restrained, incredibly well-done film. Congratulations. It's really great. Let's start from the beginning. You know, your last film, Appropriate Behaviors, isn't very much like this one, I would say. So where did that transition come for you as an artist? What made you want to sort of take a different tone?
Well, I always wanted to tell honest stories, and that's what mattered to me, was humor through any circumstances. And when I read this book, I fell in love with it, and I always wanted to make it. And I read it before I made Appropriate Behavior, but I felt like I wanted to cut my teeth on something easy and fast and urgent first, and that film was so personal and so low budget. And so I made it with my best friends, and then after that film, when the time came, my writing partner and I got the rights to the book and felt like, all right, now we have a bit of experience, let's tackle something with a far more tricky balance of comedy and drama.
What was it like going after that tricky balance and balancing it? Sorry, I didn't have a better way to put it.
Well, balancing that tricky balance it was a tricky balance. It was hard. I think it was every stage of the execution. I think you are looking at it with the script. It's a push and a pull. And it's something that you make sure everybody you work with has in mind. You know, from your producers to your cinematographer to your editor to all of your cast. And I feel like throughout, we were always keeping it subtle and underplaying the dramatic moments and the comedic moments and finding the juxtaposition against the two.
I wonder, when you go into shooting a film like this, do you hedge your bets and say, okay, I'm pretty sure that I want the tone to be subtle and kind of underplay the drama, but let's shoot different takes, different ideas of that, or let's just go in with my thesis right from the beginning and stick with that?
Well, it's funny because with comedy, I like to do a lot of different options. You know, I want to try it deadpan, I want to try it slapstick, I want to try this, I want to try that. So that in the room, you can cobble it together and really find the funny. And weirdly with this, it was, you always just knew it. You always knew in the room if you had it or not. And it was about like a very subtle push or pull with the performances. And it was always about getting the most honesty and the most emotionally raw. Even with the jokes, I think the jokes came from the situation and the humor and the writing. So no, I feel like there wasn't a lot of contrast within takes, that we were just aiming for one very precise tone.
You know, Chloë, since the beginning of your career, I think right off the bat you were known as like an incredible young actress who would take big risks. And I think with that also comes the risk of being known very quickly and being tossed into what people want you to be into that can sort of make everybody a little bit of money and keep your level of quote unquote fame up. And doing something like this is a pretty big risk. I mean, I guess you know, you can see in the script that this is going to be great, but what is it like at this point in your career deciding to do something like this?
Well, I'll give a little bit of kind of the path to getting to this. Is I just released a couple of very large movies, and they were, you know, people enjoyed them, and it was seemingly really going well. But I felt in some way that I was selling myself short emotionally, and that my capacity as an actor, I wasn't fulfilling that, my potential. And I pulled out of the movies that I was attached to, and I took about 1.5 years off from all movies. And I just read, and I listened to myself, and I tried to figure out who I was and what I wanted to be, you know, having done this for so many years now. And when I came across this story and this script, it was a multitude of reasons that really drew me to it. And yeah, I mean, you know, everyone, my agents were like, oh, you know, it's tiny, it's being made for no money, and all of those things that they were afraid of just lit a fire under me. It was a character that I'd never been able to, I don't think I've seen a character like this depicted on screen before. It's vulnerable, she's also incredibly confident, she's complex, and she also gave me the opportunity to take my love and advocacy for the LGBT community and be able to push that through art and entertainment and be able to teach people while having it be exciting and emotionally moving.
One of the things, and you touched on this, that I loved about your performance and about the character is that as confident as she is, that she does have moments where she questions herself, which is totally natural considering the environment that she's in is solely to program her a certain way and force her into sort of vulnerable questions, and hopefully she comes out on the other side the way that they want her. What was it like crafting the performance so when you had these moments of your character questioning herself, there was still an element of confidence there? There was still an element that she really knew what was right about herself, but she had these questions.
I would say that, I mean, you know, you can speak on it too. I think that really grew. We didn't have really any rehearsal time on this movie. We just jumped in. We had like 48 hours. In those 48 hours in New York City, I met several survivors of conversion therapy. And then from there, we just started filming the movie. And I think the way that I approached this character was to not overthink it and let it live in the moment and hear the words that are being spoken to me in those scenes and respond. And the beauty of Desi's writing and Cecilia's writing is that the words, even though they were scripted, they so naturally flowed in response that you didn't have to even think. And I mean, you guys can speak on it too. I think the fluidity of the script was incredible.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up, because for me, one of the like most heartbreaking parts of the film is when you see her start to have the doubt. And you just realize, like, right, like if you're being told one thing over and over again, who wouldn't eventually say, gosh, you know, I guess these people are right. And I love the balance you strike of like having, you know, kind of one foot in that, no, I know who I am and I know who I'm meant to be. And then that kind of like, oh, but I'm being pulled to the dark side and starting to doubt my true self. That's
even the most confident person
would eventually
thrust into this in 1993 is going to have horrific moments of doubt, self-doubt. Your character is mostly doubt.
Oh.
Can you talk about crafting this guy who I think in the hands of another actor and potentially another director and a writer could be a bit more villainous, might be the wrong word, but I think could be a bit creepier, a bit more predatory in some way.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, he was written with so much heart and like a ton of love, that I just felt the best thing I could kind of do was get out of the way and just do what Desi wrote, what Desi and Cecilia wrote, and it was based on Emily's novel. So all of that, that all came through in the writing, and I didn't want to make fun of him because there are some aspects to the character that I feel like could be kind of hammed up and be kind of sillier and could be kind of a more like a commentary or a joke, and I just felt that he was a good person with a good heart who was doing the best that he knew how to do with the circumstances in front of him, and really has to get through the day, has to believe that he's doing a good thing and doing the right thing, and just like Chloe said, we just really dove in. We didn't do a ton of takes. We shot the whole thing in 23 days, and there was a little bit of research. Desi sent me some really useful materials, some documentaries that I watched about conversion therapy. But it's funny because it's one of those things where people kind of are like, well, what do you think? Or what do you think Rick thinks? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not really necessarily the authority, the authority there. But I love that people can walk away from the film with something to talk about.
I think that's really absolutely right about the film. Is the film never pulls any punches at anyone's expense, no matter who the character is. There's never a mocking eye towards the ones that are trying to program the kids. Even those people, even Jennifer L, who's ostensibly the Nurse Ratched of the story, is not viewed that way, nor is she mocked or made fun of.
Yeah, well, I always felt writing this that if I had succeeded in my job, you would leave feeling a lot of empathy and understanding for the Rick and Lydia, the heads of the therapy center, that you would leave and feel like, oh God, I actually kind of relate to them. Like, how creepy is that the person who runs the gay conversion therapy center is the one that I feel a lot of empathy with. I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't want to go into this because I had an agenda specifically about gay conversion therapy. I don't like it, obviously. Most liberal gay people don't. But also, to me, it was, when I read this book and what I loved was the universality of it. I think that it's a metaphor for being a teenager. No matter who you are, gay, straight, any ethnicity, you feel diseased, that there's something really wrong with you as a teenager. That age hits, and no matter what you are, there's an Achilles heel there. And there are voices in your head that develop, and if it's through your peers, it's through your parents or whoever, that's saying like, your instincts are wrong, doubt yourself, doubt yourself, doubt yourself.
Everyone's telling you that you'll grow up to be something better than you are right now. Like the thing you are right now
Whatever
is a
it
phase.
is.
Yeah.
And to me, the film was always about an honest look at a sexual coming of age and, a sense of self coming of age, of realizing the adults in your life don't necessarily have all the answers, that we're all just kind of blindly moving forward and following our guts and faking it till we make it. And in that way, I always saw it as a bit of a John Hughes film, the kind of teen film that I loved watching, and that felt like the stakes were so high, and yet the absurdity of the frustrations and the angst also really came through clearly in films like The Breakfast Club and 16 Candles.
Forrest, I feel like your character requires potentially the most amount of research in regards to all the other characters. He's a somewhat esoteric, or just not esoteric, but a person within the LGBTQ community whose story we've never heard before. He's a Native American who's dealing with not just issues regarding sexuality, but gender issues as well, which are steeped in the sort of history of his ethnicity as well. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think it was a really beautiful character to play, for one, because it's so rare to find roles that are as nuanced and exact as I think Adam was. And I think the main thing was like, yeah, there's like so much research and there's so many like words you could use to describe Adam, or there's so many labels that you could put on him. But I think at the end of the day, like crafting the character and being in the moment with like Jane Fonda and like Cameron was like, I think the relationships and like creating the reality in those moments of like just trying to be friends and trying to like shelve all of Adam's insecurities with like what everybody has told him he is, and just like let it go and just like smoke some weed and enjoy the day. I think that's like where the beauty of like Adam's character is, because like I think, you know, like the beauty about this film is that everybody has their story, and it's like if you blink you could like miss everybody's backstory, and like you know that that's important and it shaped you, but who you are isn't like that story. It's like so much more about who you are with the person you're alone with, and like that energy that you experience. And I think that's something that was like beautiful to sit in, because that's where the reality kind of slipped in.
I just want to clarify that Forrest's character is Native American and also Winkte, or identifies as Winkte, which is Two-Spirit. And that's a community that I didn't know anything about. It was in the book, and so Forrest and I went to the Two-Spirit Community Center in New York and met some people who are Two-Spirit, and you know.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. We like sat down and we had myself, Desiree, and the co-writer Cecilia just had like just a long time to just sit down with this gentleman and talk with him about his experience. And it was something like, as a Native person, I was aware of, but it wasn't something that I had really delved into. And it was something that, you know, excited me and was just like so interesting, just like delve into what it means to be. I mean, his whole aspect and his whole character is like, Native Americans are really like poetic with their language. So Winkte literally is like the feeling of like a man and a woman like fighting within you, and maybe that battle's not over, like it's still happening. And it's like, I think that's a beautiful way to look at it.
You know, Chloe, you said that this movie was partially you feeling like you could give, or you could be an activist for the LGBTQ community within your art. And I ask all of you, what is it like to make an LGBTQ-focused, positive film in the midst of this current political climate where our vice president believes in gay conversion therapy?
I mean, I think it's important to say that, you know, this is a story where you go back to the book, it's written by a queer woman. You look at Desi, she's a queer woman. Our editor is queer. This is a queer story told by queer people for queer people. And I think that's really important to say, is that this is, you'll really see it when you see the movie. It's through a lens and a gaze that we haven't seen before. And it's really exciting to watch.
Also the depiction of female sexuality. That's something that you don't see very much on screen, and you usually see it handled by male directors. And there's a very different way that you shoot a scene depending on where you're coming from. And it's not an objective view, it's a subjective one. And I'm very proud of that, and proud of what Chloe brought to the table.
What is a subjective view versus an objective view?
I think the perfect film to show is to illustrate this is Blue is the Warmest Color, which features I think a 9-minute long sex scene between two women, and it's one frame and it's a wide and it's brightly lit and it's just information. It feels as though it exists exclusively to answer that age-old question: how do women have sex with each other? What are the mechanics of it?
I remember when that movie came out and everyone was like, "Oh, the sex scenes are very clinical. They're very. It's not. They're like it's
no
not
intimacy.
Sex. Really? No, I saw that movie and I was like, no, this is pornography. Go for it. But this is not clinical. This is a man directed these two women. I always thought that was very clear in that.
I think a sex scene should tell a story. I think Sex and Life tells a story, that there's never, even if you're in the longest relationship and it's, you know, Tuesday night sex, there's a big, there's something's changed. Yeah,
it progresses something within you. There's a reason that you're doing it. It's not just to be a voyeur.
Yeah. And we wanted all of our scenes to tell a story and have a purpose for each one of them. And
I think they do that.
That's subjective. Yeah. Thank you so much. And so by subjective, I mean you're with that character and you're experiencing the experience they are, and you're learning something about them. You're revealing something instead of the exposition of, you know, someone's, I don't know what language I can use right now.
You can use any language you want.
Oh, someone's getting laid.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
We communicate more than that.
But what does it feel like? I mean, was it on your minds while you were shooting the film of what the current political climate was and how people were talking about the LGBTQ community suddenly? I don't know if you shot it during the campaign or after. It was during the... Because during the campaign, it was more like oh, we'll do whatever, we're not going to bother the LGBTQ community at all. And then, following the election is like, oh, we're going to get down on this.
Well, the pre-production was during Obama era. And then literally halfway through the film, the election happened, and we woke up realizing that we all know what happened. But
it feels like Lord Voldemort, like he who shall not be named.
Like I don't even like to say the name.
I don't want to go there.
Don't. But yeah,
it feels the vibe of a room, no matter what. Like you could be talking about anything else, but you say that name, and it's like,
just like boo. Yeah. But yeah, we woke up to that.
Don't do it, John.
Jennifer has a picture of me from election night sitting. We filmed in this German resort in the Catskills that doubled as the conversion center. Little plug, little shout out for Riedel Bowers.
Riedel Bowers in Socrates, New York.
Socrates, New York.
We slept there and shot there, and sometimes like we wouldn't be able to eat breakfast we'd have to eat breakfast at the end of the table because the rest of it was being used in a shot. So we were just always dancing between living space and filming space.
We all had high hopes on election night, and we got together to
huge party with
to
an ice cream
have a party
buffet.
with ice cream. And towards the end of the night, as it started to become clear about which way the wind was blowing, Jennifer has a picture of me double fisting 2 beers in the Riedel Bowers Resort mug it speaks volumes to how I was feeling at that point. But yeah, the next day was really something.
The next day was the most surreal experience I've ever had on a set. Everyone was in mourning.
Do you remember what you had to shoot that day?
Yes, well, because Chloe had to jump on top of a table and sing Four Non-Blondes.
That scene was the next day?
So she jumps on top of this table and she sings "What's Up" by Four Non-Blondes, and with like all the joy, it's sort of like an emotional climax of the movie. She's so happy, she's rebelling, she's having a good time and laughing for the first time in the film. You've never seen her like break out like this, and we had to take a break. Everyone was crying, and we had to take a break to watch the concession speech. Chloe had campaigned for Hillary Clinton. It was heartbreaking, but what was incredible was watching this professional use every bit of emotion she had and channel it into her work. It was an amazing thing to watch.
Do you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like it's my job to ask you
moment,
how'd it go, but I feel like I kind of
Yeah, well, I think in that moment, we were all in mourning, and it was incredibly difficult, but that was the moment when I realized this was the highest form of rebellion that we could do. This is the highest form of activism we could do, is get on that table and belt out Four Non-Blondes and have this elated moment in the story. Because if I was feeling that sadness and anger and oppression and fear, imagine what Cameron was feeling during the time at that camp, and it was 1/18 of what I was feeling, 1/18 of what she would have been feeling in that moment.
I was gonna say that like that is the interesting thing about watching artists work. I mean, this sounds so pretentious, but like when something hurts you and something makes you feel very strong emotions, some people shut down and other people funnel that into something. And that's something that Chloe definitely does, is funnel it into the work she's doing. And it gives her a drive and a passion that I can clearly see as a director.
Let's get some questions from our audience. Who's a question?
Hi, Chloe. If you could star in any movie, what would it be about?
Oh Lord. That's a very broad question. I would say that, there are so many beautiful stories out there to be told. I think what's important now is to be working with important filmmakers who are being progressive. And, a lot of people right now are remaking a lot of old stories, and we're just rehashing things that have already happened. I think it's really important to find people with brand new ideas that are wanting to, I think, bring life into an industry that can be a little bit stale sometimes, I think especially right now. So I think just for me, I don't know exactly what role it would be, but something that shapes me and changes me in a way that I might have not viewed a subject in that light until after doing the movie, and it truly does stay with me in my heart and progresses me in some way.
Next question.
Hi, my question is, what was the hardest scene to film?
Well, for me, it was the one that we just talked about where she jumps on the table and sings happily because we were all very upset that day. So that was my hardest scene to shoot.
Can I ask, what did you say going into that scene? Like, what was how did you get people geared up to have that moment?
We spoke, the crew at breakfast and again after the concession speech. It's gonna sound so cheesy. I spoke about how proud I am to be American. My parents immigrated here from Iran in the early 80s. And I'm very proud of my background, but at the same time, I know the limitations of growing up in an Islamic republic. And if I had been raised there, I would not have been able to come out. Being gay is punishable by death in Iran. And I am proud that I've been given the opportunity to direct a film that criticizes the administration we're about to get. I told my team, there's nowhere else in the world I'd rather be in this moment with you making this story. And I'm grateful that I can make this story. And I don't feel disempowered because of this. I feel motivated.
Next question.
Hi, our next question is going to come from an online viewer. JD wants to know, what was the process of making the scene where Cameron is singing on the table to What's Going On? Why specifically that song?
Uh-oh.
Why that song? Let's just start with the second part of the question. Why that song?
We're killing this scene.
I think that scene is
You
dead.
guys are gonna be so excited to see that scene. Why that
God.
song? I chose, so in the book, she starts singing Oh Happy Day, and I felt like that we could sex it up a little. I was like, that song's cool and all, but I'd like to go a little crazier. And I just always loved that song, and I felt like it was emblematic of the situation she was going through, where she was looking around and wondering, what's up? What's up with all this?
I would say, just to add on to that, in general, the choices you chose for songs in the story and bands, she chose, in one part, she chooses the Breeders that are the cassette tape in my bag. And I thought that was such a cool choice because usually a movie in the 90s, especially the early 90s, can become very cliche. Yeah. So I think the Breeders was like a cooler choice to do.
Well, I loved the Breeders growing up, and Josephine Wiggs was always my queer icon.
Yeah.
I love Four Non-Blondes, and I wanted to go, like the unexpected route for that.
Yeah, a little different, yeah.
Can I also say, in terms of music, I also loved the Christian rock band that you had. Specifically because I love that scene. I thought it was so sensitive the way you handled that scene. It's another instance where it would be so easy to mock that band and to mock the people listening to it. I would have. But you chose something, I think, far smarter and far more sensitive.
Thank you so much. So that band is headed by a musician I really love named Emily Belagus, and they're called Wild Yaup. I don't know how to pronounce it, but Yaup. Wild Yay. Y-A-W-P. I don't know how to pronounce it, but they're fantastic, and they wrote this for the film, and I was really scared going into that scene because I wasn't raised Christian, and I never wanted to make them the butt of the joke. I understand the appeal of Christian rock, I never wanted to poke fun. And so I was really excited to ask my friend whose music I love to do something that felt like the Cranberries, that felt like the kind of music that you wanted to listen to just with a religious bent. And there's so much sincerity in the performances of all the disciples, the students at that concert. I think the reason it works so well is with how much genuine passion the kids had for that band. So I think that's a testament to the performances of the cast.
I think we have time for one more question.
Hi, for Chloe, I love the part in the film where you say your character says she doesn't identify or see herself as anything, and I wanted to know how you can relate to that and how you feel about labels for yourself.
I think it's important to mention that I grew up in a family with 4 brothers, a single mom and me, and I have 2 gay brothers in my family and 2 straight brothers. And I grew up on an interesting kind of platform where I wasn't viewed as, one of the boys or one of the girls. It was just us and our family, and everyone had a voice at the table, and everyone had an opinion, and we all just kind of jumped in on each other whenever we could try and get it. And so it wasn't until I grew up and I was faced with the societal oppression of femininity and what our view and projection of being a woman is, especially magnified with being, you know, in movies and being pictured from a young age. So it's changed and shaped itself. When I was younger, you know, I definitely fell into all the gender norms of trying to place myself in the dresses that they wanted me to wear, or try and be someone I felt that I wasn't, and wearing a mask in a lot of ways. And over the last 2 years now, you know, the year I took off, and then now these movies and this new kind of formulated idea of who I am as Chloë Grace Moretz, the young woman, the person, I try to view, I don't know, myself as, I like to not put labels on many things in my life. I think it's important to feel what you feel towards who you feel it with. And if someone's a good person, they're a good person. I don't need to ask, you know, whether or not they're gay, straight, bi, or whatever. I just want to know you and meet you and have an emotional connection. And I think, you know, I'd like to get to a space and time when we don't have to come out. People don't have to come out. It's just whether or not you're a solid person or not, you're a good person to the community and to humanity. So, yeah.
But what was it like singing Four Non-Blondes? No, I'm sorry.
Get out of here. And actually, we're releasing a cover of the song. No.
Congratulations on the film. I love it. It's called The Miseducation of Cameron Post. It's in theaters, select cities right now, and then opening wide, right?
Well, we're so August 10th, we're opening wider, and on August 3rd, tomorrow, we're in New York at the Quad Cinema in the Landmark.
Fantastic. Everybody give them a round of applause. Let's hear it.
Very much. Thanks for having us.